participants to mute your audio and video to ensure uninterrupted session for our own convenience. You will have the opportunity to submit your questions to today's presenter by typing your questions in the chat box. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect the same and address them at the end of the presentation. Before we begin the session formally, there's a small video that we would like to play now. I request architect Siddhartha to play the video. Thank you for the video, sir. It's now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, architect Saurabh. He completed his undergraduation from National Institute of Technology, Tirchi, secured a gold medal in 2013, went on to pursue his master's in architecture, sustainable architecture and building physics from School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada, and secured a gold medal in 2018. Also worked in well-known firms in Bangalore. Currently teaching at Malviya National Institute of Technology, Jaipur, and pursuing part-time PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. His research work is based on understanding the building performance from pre-design to completion stage by using advanced simulation techniques with a focus on solar passive architecture in urban context. Further includes analysis of built form for energy efficiency and sustainability. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for warm welcome. And I think I'm audible. Clear. My audio is clear. I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So before starting, I would like to thank Siddharth first of all. So for inviting me for this lecture, and I would say the experience today I'll share that is based on my personal findings also. And from last 4 to 5 years, basically I'm totally into this scientific side of buildings. Actually, I want to say that this architecture, the whole field of architecture, uh, is consists of two spectrum. Okay, it's like when we see light. So light have the thermal property also and visible property also. It's like sunlight, we are saying natural light. So architecture is like this natural light. So it has one side of science that is called like scientific side of the buildings or whatever urban context, and one side is consist of the art. So as an architect, yes.
Sir, your video is not visible.
Okay. Yes, I think it will be visible now.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
So the shutter was this side. I have this laptop. It has this controllability of shutter. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me. So yes. I think now I'm visible also and audible also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Harshita. Yeah. So I was saying before starting this presentation, I want to clear one observation. I want to share one observation what I had like from last 5 years when I was working in Bangalore. Then all of a sudden I shifted to pursuing my PhD and research. So right now I am doing my research also and I am working also. So this is a personal finding I have. So this architecture, the whole course of architecture, the whole syllabus of architecture, especially for the final years, I want to tell, all the students, they are close to completion of their courses. Okay. So this whole finding of architecture has two categories. One is science side of this, and one is art. So I think as a designer, as an architect, this course, it has ability to tell scientific findings in a very artistic way. And art is art. What is mean by art? I'm telling it is how you communicate your ideas. Okay, so it can be in any form. Art, you say it can be any form. It's like visual art to martial art. So how you communicate, that matters a lot. So for the present day presentation, what we'll start to learn, see, smart material itself is a very big spectrum. It's like ocean. So one day we can't complete the whole spectrum, but we will try to find the actually building application of the smart materials related to building envelope, maybe related to interior space, how they are shaping our interior space, how they are perceiving the new interior spaces and all. So we'll try to find it out. So in a very concluding manner, I want to tell, so this artistic form of telling science is very necessary nowadays. So try to explore more of scientific findings, more of analysis power in your design. It start with your design development stage only. Okay, so I'll start my presentation today that is based on smart and nano materials. And these two words, smart and nano, is very closely associated. So every time if I'll present some slide, I'll present some videos, or I'll communicate, these two are very closely associated. So smart technology, actually smart materials are the composition of so many nano technologies. That's how it works. Okay. So I'll start my presentation. I think the screen will be visible. And if in case any problem, please remind me. Okay. So this is the front page. So understanding the fundamentals of smart and nano materials. Okay. So how to find this this research area? How to find this research area about smart and nano materials? So I was searching through keywords. Every time if we as a student, everyone is student. So every time we as a student want to find some research area, we have to find first we have to find the keywords. It's like if you want to find the what is architecture. So obviously you will type building, maybe start with building, maybe infrastructure, maybe architectural science, maybe building science. So these are the keywords. So what keywords associated with the smart materials or the term smartness? Okay. What smart means? First, we will try to decode the smart word of it, because nowadays I think 99% of the techniques or the materials or the products around us, it's claimed to be smart. So actually, it's smart or not, we will see. We will evaluate that today. Okay. So for me, the ultimate smartness or the concept of smartness in the materials, it comes itself from nature. So nature is the ultimate form of or composition of. Hello. So I think the screen is visible and I'm audible also.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. So yeah, so nature itself. This is the first slide, and I have picture of human eye. Okay. So actually, when I started my journey as a building analyst or building scientist, so this was the first thing it came in my mind, how human eye works. Okay, so when you see the nature itself, even human body also, it is the like composition of so many well organized smart systems. It itself is a composition of smart systems. Like let's talk about human eyes in a very physical characteristics. Okay, so what we do, how we control the external sources or external stimuli from the human eye. So basically, it has what function it has. It can sense the visuals. है ना? Human eye का जो aperture होता है, this aperture itself, the pupil, what we call, it can act through the changes in the external environment. So ultimately, we can say that human eyes itself act with the changes in visual scenario and the thermal sensation and visual sensation. So these two are the major categories through which human eye act. Okay. So the definition of smart materials or the term smart is consist of that senses environment. It senses the first keyword. Okay. The external environment. Okay. Then process the information and then act according to that. So we all know from our childhood that human eyes, if you go in darkness, the aperture will be bigger to see the things clear. If you go in the brightness, the aperture in the daytime or maybe in some glare scenario, the aperture will be reduced. And actually, we all know that for our hello, yeah, hello. So everything is clear. I'm getting some voice. Okay.
Request all the participants to mute your audio and video, please.
Yeah, please. And there will be a question and answer session. So maybe after this. So yeah. So coming to the second slide. So this Earth is itself like a Rubik cube. Okay, and it is having so many potentials in its organization, or it has so many like synchronized ecosystems. So if you are synchronizing in a good manner, it's like a Rubik cube. Okay. So if you are synchronizing in a better manner, like every color in its cells, it will perform good, it will look good. And if the synchronization is getting reversed or mismatched, the products or the output will be disastrous. Okay. So this whole chapter of smart materials and nanotechnology itself is like this. If you or if me as a scientist or as an explorer, if we'll use in this in a very synchronized way, maybe some for good output, the results will be helpful to us. And if the synchronization or the mismatch will be happen, the results will be in bad terms. Okay. So now now, yeah, so what are the parameters which we sense in the smart materials? So first I will ask the very fundamental question. Okay. We all use smartphones, that is called smartphones. So what is the smart meaning in that, in the phones? Can everyone share their perception, at least 4 or 5 perception? So what is the term smart meaning in that? What is the smartness in that phone? Can we discuss this for 2 or 5 minutes? Because everyone is right in this manner ki haan, we are using smartwatch, smartphone nowadays. From past 5 to 10 years, we all are using. So what are the main factors which define phones, and how we define the phone as a smart gadget or smart product, what you are using? Okay. So there are ways, there are 100 ways we can define the term smartphone or smart mobile phones what you're using. But today we will categorize in 4 major categories. Okay, so there are some keywords I will try to coin and try to I'll try to tell also how they actually synchronize the common scenario. So first word is immediacy. Okay, so what is immediacy? I will try to explain. Then second one is transiency. Third is selectivity, and fourth is affordability. Okay. And every time if I'm telling this word, if I'm explaining this word, try to go back to your smartphone and try to look at the composition and try to have this smartphone in your hand and try to evaluate this with these parameters. Okay. So how immediacy, this word, respond in real time, works with this smartphone. So you have to tell me the example, or I'll share my experience with this smartphone as an example, how it's respond in real time. Transiency, okay, respond to more than one environment. Selectivity, what is this called? Respond in predictable manner. And affordability, so respond to everyone needs. Okay, the first term, that is, yeah. So what is immediacy? So can anyone tell what is this? What this figure has? What is the name of this bird and what she's doing right now? Maybe Siddharth can tell, or any student. I don't know the name of the student, but anyone can participate. What is this figure is about? This is very common phenomenon in forest, or maybe in the areas which is not so urban in nature. So still we can see this kind of phenomenon, natural phenomenon in there. Okay, so this is the screen is about, this is the bird called weaver. And Hindi mein isko baya bhi bolte hain. So the full name is Baya Weaver. So she is making, or he's, or whatever called bird is making a nest. Huh? And the best part, the most two important part of this making this nest is it responds to the real time problem. So what they do after this spring season, the forest will be collected, like the forest will be full of this branches, the dry branches from the trees. It falls like in a very natural way. Okay, after the spring season. So what they do, they collect all the dry branches and they weave it without any glue or without any joints in there. So it's like everything is well synchronized in that way. So as a whole composition, it actually tolerates the next season, that is called rainy season. So before coming to, so this is the response what they are having for seasonal changes. So transformation of their own shelter from one season to second season, how they respond to the real time problem. So this is the one nature. So this actually defines the word immediacy, how you actually respond to the real time problem. And now we'll see the example in smartphone. है ना? तो स्मार्टफोन का सबसे रियल टाइम एग्जांपल क्या है? कैन एनीवन टेल मी व्हाट इज द बेस्ट यूज एंड रियल टाइम प्रॉब्लम यूज फॉर दिस स्मार्टफोन? Actually, you use in daily basis. Okay. I have this habit of like more of dialogues, more of discussion. So don't feel bad. I ask so many questions to my students or my participants also. So yeah. So what is this about? This is about the smartphone. Actually, the most important use in real time scenario is the map, the Google Map we use. Okay. So that is the reflection of the real scenario, what is happening outside. And now you can see in the time of maybe pandemic and all, you'll see that actually the traffic loads and the real time scenario is very different what we used to have. Maybe I'm hoping that everything will be fine again and everything will be on the place. That is one different thing. Okay. So this is how you respond to the real time scenario. This is one very good example. So how you reflect the outside scenario, the roads, the building form, the urban context, the urban fabric in a very simplistic manner in your by maybe by name, maybe by some color code, maybe now the 3D concept is also coming, that is called 3D mapping, 3D mapping of the whole city. That concept is also there. We are exploring now in Asian context. So many research are going in NUS and all. So this is the first parameter which you can actually judge the scale of smartness in the devices or in the materials. Respond in real time. Okay. Okay. Now the second is transiency. Transiency is respond to more than one environmental state. This is again a very good natural phenomenon. Okay. And this is how the butterfly evolves. So this term actually tells about the evolution or the respond what you or how you react with external stimuli. Okay. So as a human, what we have, this is from our traditional practice also. Okay. So in India, actually, this is very evident. I will tell that our calendar, our own calendar, not the English calendar. I'm telling the calendar we follow, that is called based on the seasonal pattern of the year, annual season pattern. So this figure itself is explaining how this small caterpillar, the first stage of the butterfly making is how the larva eggs are combining, and then the second stage, when what they do, they wrap up their bodies in a shell, or maybe in a kind of envelope, like a building envelope only. Okay, so that is called the second stage. That is called chrysalis. Okay, so this from caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. And actually, this wrapping up the envelope itself is done for the purpose so they can regulate the thermal sensation in their body. So can regulate the temperature range in their body. So this shell itself, the first stage, what you are saying, and that is the beginning of their wings in the last stage. It itself work as a multifunctional use. Okay, so this is the second property of the smart material, that it respond to the real problem, it respond to the external environment, the different stages of external environment. Okay, so this we are learning for building application. It has to respond to every season, maybe like for cold season also, for winter season also, for summer season also. Maybe it respond that is annual pattern, how we are responding to the building envelope. For daily pattern also, like morning time kitna ho raha hai, night time mein kya respond kar raha hai. Okay, and later on this stage we will talk about PV panels. So what is the efficiency of PV panels, because that is the most right now, and what are the future aspects in PV panels, what we can explore further, and PV panels integrating with the building envelope. Okay, so this is the second keyword which will give us the power of judging the smart materials transiency that respond to more than one environment. Okay, but it's selectivity. So that is the keyword, and it defines the response in predictable manner. So this photo is about is from Second World War. Okay, and we can see how this pigeon, the bird itself, that used to have the this property to predict their way. Okay, so what they used to do, because in that time I think World War II definitely phone and this communicating device was not there. So mostly they used to rely on the radio, FM and all. And some of the war zones that was very farther from the center or from the urban area, they used to use animals like dog, pigeon, and horses and all for their communication. So this is the third keyword. Ki your device has to use, or use device has to give outputs in a very predictable manner. है ना? The unpredictability you can't afford. So in this phone, I already shared the application of Google Map. Okay, so in some cities, maybe you are from Bangalore, and maybe because of some work you came to Delhi, and you don't know the roads personally, and you are using Google Map. Okay, so the predictable manner of the traffic flow, the nodes, and where you to take the turn, and every time it has to be in very specific manner and very synchronized and organized manner. So this is the third thing. It has to be very predictable. It has to be responding real time. Okay, the fourth, the most important word. Okay, that is affordability. And I have selected this image for affordability because affordability means how you're responding to everyone needs. And it has to be like water. Water has this property, it can take any shape, it can take any form. This is the only material, it's like ice cube banta hai, it is in the gas form, it is in the solid form, it is in the fluid form, it is in the liquid form, and it is equal to everyone. Okay, so respond to everyone needs. So affordability, and this is the one thing I want to share about this smartphone. I never expected this. I'll share my family also. My one of my experience in my family only. I never expected that my parents. My itself is from older generation than you. I am almost like half of my life is gone. And when I was in college, I won his bachelor's. I think that time smartphone was not there. In my final years, this came as a like Android. I never expected my parents will be using this smartphone same as like me. So this is called affordability, or you can maybe you can choose some other word, that the acceptance of this device. I'm reviewing the name only, smart I'm reviewing. But why it's smart? Because this is equal for everyone. You go vertically, you go by age. Kids like age of 6, 7, they are starting using this phone. In the same manner, the elder people, what they're using in the age of 60 or 70. So this is the smartness. For everyone, it's giving the equal opportunity, or maybe equal involvement to everyone. Maybe it has their negative side, the addictiveness, and it's like a drug. You can't remove. The virtual world is there. No one coming to see the real world. That is one different problem. But as a positive side, this is how we have to design the things, that design the products. Building itself is a like ecosystem of products, we all know. So it responds to everyone in an equal manner. But for everyone, it has some interesting material inside it. Okay. So this was the fourth keyword about the parameters which defines the territory of smart materials, and nanomaterial is the part of technology. Okay, so I'll broadly use the term smart only. Okay, so okay, so now we have this concept of what is the smart material. So I'll go once again: immediacy, respond in real time; then transiency, respond to more than one environmental state. It is like updation of your software. Android 6 was there. Then Android 7 आया, 8 आया, 9 आया, 10 आया. It's like 1 plus 6, 1 plus 5, 1 plus 7, 1 plus 10. So it's like that. In a physical manner, it's like that. Okay? And then selectivity, respond in a very predictable manner, and then affordability, respond to everyone. Okay? So now I'll start the technical part of smart materials. What are the categories? What are the typologies we have? Okay? Yeah. Classification based on this is particularly for I'll tell building materials. Okay? One thing I must say, see, this chapter or this part of the knowledge, the smart materials, it is not about one domain. Trust me, this is the one chapter I have read in my life that is more of interdisciplinary aspects. It is a combination of so many departments, so many domains. The moment you will go inside this maybe the thermal based on thermal energy, the thermochromic. I'll explain like one by one. So the moment you will go inside this materials, smart materials classification based on the different domain. So for exploring this, you have to read the parallelly you have to go through the literature or maybe theories in the different domains also. Okay. So today we will try to find कि हाँ थोड़ा मोड़ा जो हमें physics, maybe thermodynamics and all, we'll try to find it out. But for a deeper perception, for a deeper knowledge of this, we have to explore the other side also. That is called more scientific side, more that interdisciplinary knowledge we used to have. So I am taking help of one of the website is there. I'll share in the last. I'll share it in the last. So what they are doing, they are combining this kind of projects or this kind of people which have this tendency of which have curiosity of maybe transforming their interdisciplinary knowledge to one another. So it's like if as an architect, if you want to decode this term, the smart materials, you have to get the knowledge of in a later stage, in an advanced stage, you have to get the knowledge of coding and decoding. Okay, maybe computer coding, maybe some kind of Python and all, which help you. Maybe some kind of knowledge of thermodynamics, how heat exchange, and that is very important. Okay, and maybe some kind of knowledge of strain and strain limit, about the magnetic property of the materials, about the thermal property of the materials, about the strength of the materials also. Okay, so I'll start with the very basic one, that is thermochromic. Okay. Actually, I have this tendency ki I ask always what is thermochromic and what is the most easiest thing you say in the in real life scenario about thermochromic. So thermochromic, what they do, thermochrome, if the name suggests, it is about the change of thermal status. Okay, so the input will be thermal energy maybe in the form of daylight, and daylight consists of thermal also, visual also. Try to understand that this daylight, this sunlight itself is a very big resource available with us. Okay, and each and every materials, each and every species respond differently with that. अभी human तो photosynthesis नहीं कर पाते ना, but plant they do photosynthesis with this sunlight. So their technology is advanced, much more advanced with us. So what we use solar energy in a passive way. Plant use direct solar energy, do photosynthesis, prepare their food, and they grow. But we eat plants. So we use passively the same energy in the form of plants. Okay. So what humans, they use different they use different spectra of same sunlight. It is consists of so many energies. Okay. So in this material, thermochromic, there will be a surface, and the energy, the thermal energy will come. Okay, the input will be thermal energy, and then because of this thermal sensation, the new molecular structure will be made, and the output will be based on color. Everyone knows this. This is the starting from the specs we use, the eyeglasses. So this is a very day-to-day and general perception of thermochrome. Ki with the radiation spectrum, we change the color of the specs or the eyeglasses. So for the daylight, for reducing the glare in the daylight, we use the darker shade of the color spectrum. That is called black, maybe blue or brown. Okay. So this is the first material, that is thermochromic. Okay. Then the magnetorheological. This is very important. Okay, and I was very excited after reading the theories about magnetorheological. So what is the application is about, I'll tell you. And this is about the input will be in the terms of magnetic field. Okay, and this magnetic field, the external magnetic field. Okay, if this is your material, the external magnetic field will be applied, and this will change the internal structure of the material because of this magnetic field. So their viscosity, their structure will change. So if this material has, maybe let's assume, has a density of 10. Yeah. So anyone having doubt anywhere? Okay. So if this density has, let's assume the unit is 10, because of this external magnetic field, it will change to 100. Okay, so what they do, the materials, the atomic structure in the materials, they change accordingly to the magnetic field from the external side. ठीक है. So magnetorheological, I have one small video about the magnetorheological, what is the material, and trust me, you'll not believe this magnetorheological ka concept. It was much similar to, I think you have seen, everyone has seen this movie Terminator and the Mercury Man inside it. Okay, so the first application of magnetorheological in a very fantasy way, very hypothetical way, is from that movie. So the Mercury Man, I must tell, because I assuming everyone have seen this movie. So what is this Mercury Man concept was? This man, for every barrier he has to cross, he has to change his shape. So what he used to do as a Mercury Man, he used to change his viscosity, density of his own body. So if this is a door, he'll go, he'll be in melted form. He'll go inside with this slit of the door. So this is how he changed the concept of Mercury Man evolved by changing the viscosity. So for this real application, what they do, they need a external stimuli or a source to change the viscosity of this material. So that is magnetorheological. Some of the application of this magnetorheological material started with in the army. Okay, so how they were started? Actually, they use this magnetorheological material in vehicle suspension. Okay, so I'll not go inside the vehicle suspension how it works. It's like a piston inside a rod, and the oil will be there. So in when the bad or maybe some bad patches come in the road, or maybe in the road which are not good, this piston go inside up and down, and then that's how suspension works in the vehicles. So what they have done, they have inserted this magnetorheological chip inside this piston. Okay, and every time this piston go inside, the computer senses the depth of the bumps what we having in the road, and according to that, they change the viscosity or the fluid from which piston is working. Okay, so I'll play one video. It will be more clear from this video. Magnetorheological. In building application, we are using this magnetorheological materials in bridges and waterways. Okay, because most of the buildings, most of the bridges work and the road works. Now we are connecting cities like Mumbai mein Sea Link we have. So we are using this technology called suspension bridges. So there also they are using this kind of magnetorheological material, which change the viscosity inside it's inside the assembly. Okay, so I'll try to play this magnetorheological. One minute. Okay, so please tell me if the voice quality is not clear or the screen is not clear. Okay, so I'm playing this video. So are you seeing this video? Is everyone is seeing this video?
Yes, sir, it's visible, but there's no audio.
Oh, there is no audio.
Saurabh, when you're sharing the screen, you'll
Now
have
you can see the video.
option.
Okay.
In the left corner, you'll have a share audio option also when you're sharing the screen.
Okay. Siddharth, now it's coming.
There's no audio, sir.
No. You have to
Okay.
stop sharing and share it again after clicking
Okay.
that. Yeah.
ठीक है. I'll try. I think now audio is coming. Is it coming now?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Now I think I'll get.
In the search for smarter materials,
Coming now.
engineers have taken
Yes, sir.
Good. So we'll start this
a
video.
hard look at some liquids and at the movies. The T-1000 from Terminator 2 could have won an Oscar for Best Adapting Material because this liquid guy can sense, respond, and even self-heal. It's the material itself that does things. He's a lifelike fluid that's very, very smart. Okay, that's science fiction. But in the search for smarter materials, engineers have taken a hard look at some liquids with very strange behaviors. They're called non-Newtonian fluids. I traveled to North Carolina to the Lord Corporation, which manufactures one. But when I arrive, I have a burning question for engineer Lynn Yanyo. Forget non-Newtonian. What's a Newtonian fluid? She offers to show me one.
This is a Newtonian fluid. Take a look at that.
Turns out, this Newtonian fluid is water. But what makes it Newtonian? I've never thought of it as Newtonian
It makes it Newtonian because Isaac Newton discovered there's a relationship between how hard it is to move it and the viscosity,
Viscosity meaning thickness?
the thickness, resistance to flow.
When you try to move something through water, the resistance is directly proportional to how fast you move it. Twice as fast is twice as hard. Now that's kind of what you'd expect. But amazingly, that's not true for lots of other fluids. The non-Newtonian ones. Like ketchup. Ever wonder why it's so hard to get it out of a glass bottle? That's because, unlike water, it thickens at rest, its molecules creating a weak structure that resists flowing. Yes, I remember this from my hamburger days. Ladies and gentlemen, it does not flow. Lynn is staking her scientific reputation and her hairdo on the non-flowingness of ketchup. But if you can get it started, that structure breaks down and the ketchup thins and flows. Here's another non-Newtonian fluid. In fact, a lot of it. Oh, here it comes. Definitely a liquid. This mixture of cornstarch and water is known as oobleck. The word comes from an old Dr. Seuss story. Oobleck dramatically changes its viscosity, or thickness, depending on how fast you try to move it. Keep the action soft, and it flows like a liquid. But hit it hard, and it's solid enough that you can run across it. This liquid, when I squeeze it tight, turns into a rock. And then when I let go, it turns back into a liquid. What is happening?
We like to call this the Three Stooges effect.
That's not the scientific term. What do you mean the Three Stooges
We
effect?
know when the Three Stooges tried to get through the doorway and they couldn't. The cornstarch doesn't want to get out of its own way. So when you push on it really hard, it can't move out of the way fast enough. And if you hit it really slowly, you can go right through it like a liquid.
So it's a liquid solid. You know, it depends on the pressure or the speed or something.
Depends on the speed at which you try to move anything through it.
Oobleck's a lot of fun. Be sure to fill your neighbor's pool with it. Oh, it's got me! But non-Newtonian fluids designed into the right system can save your life.
There go the lights.
Imagine a material that can adjust its thickness to absorb the seismic shakes of earthquakes.
The West Grand Freeway has come down.
Or dampen the vibrations caused by wind that can pull a bridge apart. That's what the non-Newtonian fluid Lynn has in her hand can do.
So the interesting thing about this is that it's very responsive to a magnetic field. And it's a lot like oobleck. Take the spoon and scrape around in there.
Okay. Oh man, that is unbelievable. It's cement. It's...
So now scoop some of that up and just take it out of the magnetic field by lifting it up.
Oh, no way. This is like X-Men stuff. So it's a magnetic liquid.
We call this magnetorheological fluid,
You got a shorter nickname?
MR.
MR fluid? Can I call it Mr. Fluid?
No.
A typical MR fluid consists of tiny iron particles suspended in a fluid like oil. Without a magnetic field, the liquid flows freely. But add a magnetic field, and the metal particles line up, increasing the fluid's thickness. Lord puts that variable viscosity to work in devices like shock absorbers.
And then there's another suspension that's larger, and that's for really heavy-duty vehicles.
Heavy-duty vehicles like Humvees. For the military, a smooth ride isn't about luxury. How well a vehicle handles bumps determines how fast it can safely travel, as well as how fatigued its passengers become, both life and death issues on the battlefield. Out here in the woods, I'm going to see just what kind of a difference using a smart material can make in a Humvee's performance. Good heavens.
Well, here you are. This is your ride. And for this first ride, we have this military Humvee, and it is just retrofitted with the conventional shocks that you would have when this was used out in the field.
A typical shock absorber is built around a piston filled with oil. When the piston moves down, it forces the oil from one chamber to another through small holes. The thickness of the oil and the size of the holes determine how much force that takes. If neither varies, the shock has a one-size-fits-all dampening solution, no matter how bumpy the road is. How do you make this seat recline anyway? That was pretty bouncy. You should sell tickets to this thing. For round 2, the Humvee gets the smart shock absorbers. They also use a piston design, but they add MR fluid full of iron particles and an electromagnet where the fluid flows through the holes. A computer controls the electromagnet in real time, varying the viscosity of the MR fluid. This system adjusts how much force is needed to move the piston in response to the bumpiness of the road. That makes the shock absorber tunable. It can react nearly instantaneously to different size vibrations. And that's very smart. Ah, this is nothing. How do I adjust the AC? So, you're telling me that was the exact same speed?
Exact same speed.
Well, I can tell you, if I were a soldier, I'd vote for these shock absorbers.
Oh yeah, you can see why that's a huge difference for those guys if they have to travel 25 miles in that, and the vehicles will last longer. Don't forget your seatbelt.
The abilities of smart fluids scale far beyond Humvees. Engineers see a big future for them in bridge construction to squelch vibrations caused by wind and bad weather. And even for use in buildings to counteract the awesome power of earthquakes, like a steadying hand. Sophisticated smart materials can react to outside forces to protect bridge.
Okay, yeah. So this was about the, I think, magnetorheological. We got the concept and all. Okay. So I'm audible. My voice is clear and screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Good, good. So yeah, the third thing, yeah. I forgot to tell about these materials: the thermochromic, the magnetorheological, and the shape memory. What we want to, what we'll go to see, it is about property changing. So you have seen how this external stimuli can change their inside structural property of the material. Okay. So this is about the property changing. That is the type 1 for understanding the very fundamentals of this. Okay, shape memory we will discuss in a later stage of the slides, because this is direct. This has directly this has directly come to the building envelope assembly. So it needs to be explained in little detail way. Okay, so that's why we will go to this shape memory where the input is thermal energy. Anyhow, when you are building designing a building in outer environment, so this you are getting default, the thermal radiation or whatever you call the solar energy, you are getting default. So how you are utilizing that, how you are controlling that external solar radiation to get the comfortable environment inside your building. So there, this shape memory materials comes to apply. Okay, so this we will go through that. So this is the first category, that is called property changing, the internal property changes, and the second category is about energy exchanging. So in this particular assembly, energy exchanging, the materials ka structure remains same, but what they do, they transfer what they do, they take the input as in terms of electrical input, or maybe in terms of thermal input, they take the input and they change the energy with them. Okay. So through that input, they absorb the radiation or electrical differences or potential differences in their assembly, and then they change this absorbed energy to the different form of energy. And this the very basic example is photovoltaic PV panels. What we use in the buildings. Okay. So PV panels I'm not going in the detail कि PV panels कैसे काम करता है. We all know there will be two bands. ठीक है. एक N type होता है, एक P type होता है. Then because of this radiation, this electron charges up, and then this transfer energy, and then there is electrical difference between the P type, N type, and the current flows. This is all about the photovoltaic cells. Okay, PV panels का application will be in two types. ठीक है, मैं थोड़ा सा I want to clear this. PV panels one is active application. ठीक है, for that we use PV panels directly into the buildings. ठीक है, so this is like you are putting PV panels, solar panels, in your roof or maybe in your wall, and you are generating energy. Okay, so this kind of approach is called active approach, because what we do in this approach, we have some kind of electrical consumption in our home. For cater that electrical consumption, we calculate the load inside our home, how much appliances you are using, and according to that load, you put the solar panels in your roof or maybe in your near grid. PV panels we can use in two types, in your home also, and if you're living in apartments or maybe in some kinds of flat system, where we don't have roof with us, we use in the outskirt area. That is called PV farming. एक जैसे होता है agricultural farms होता है, so we use PV farming. We take the electricity from that particular source. And the second way, that is where I think the real responsibility of architects comes to play. That is building integrated PV panels. That is called BIPV. Okay. So this itself is a very big area for research and all, and it has great potential in India. So please try to find theories or maybe videos or maybe some kind of application according to the BIPV, building integrated PV panels. So what is the difference? This PV panels is calculated later in the design. This is not from the previous like initial stage of the design. The normal PV panels what we use, that is called active approach. And this building integrated PV panels come in passive approach also. So where you design your window, we design our window wall ratio, like wall say window ka aperture kitna hai, building envelope how much it has to control the solar energy or UV radiation. We design according to that. That is called building integrated PV panels. So that is from the design development only, from the real stage from the initial stage of the design, you design the PV panels. So first is this energy exchange में PV panels. The second is thermoelectric. So what does thermoelectric do? The input will be temperature differences. And then because of this temperature differences, the structural assembly will not change, but the energy exchange will be there. And again, the output will be an electrical out, as an electrical potential difference. And you will not believe this thermoelectric is the exact opposite reaction of what PV panels do. PV panels may now, I think everyone is seeing me. I'm visible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So in PV panels, what we do, I don't have, I think, real lab and all, but I'll try to explain with this help of this mobile only. So in PV panels, we take the radiation and we change it to the electrical energy. Okay. During this transformation of the energy from radiation to electrical energy, there is a lot of emission of heat energy. Okay, so what we actually absorb from the surface, we actually transfer only 20 to 30% of that absorbed heat energy to the electrical energy, or the radiation to the electrical energy. So this 70% of the heat energy we are getting lost. Or maybe, or take the other example, if you are using AC, air conditioners, like HVAC system, okay, in centralized HVAC system, or like a split AC system or window AC system, what you will see, there will be two units. Indoor unit, outdoor units. So indoor unit is the consist of where you get the comfortable air in the inside. Okay, and that range from 22 degree to, or maybe 21.5 degree to 26 degree, based on your metabolic rate, based on your clothes value, what clothes you are putting, everything, based on your seasonal pattern also. But there will be outdoor unit which rejects the heat. What is making inside comfortable, that is the same heat you are rejecting outside. And actually, because of this heat, there is a later effect of that is urban heat island effect and all. That is a advanced stage of bad side of HVAC system, air conditioning what using. But this itself, the heat rejection, what we are getting, this heat energy, 70% of the heat energy is getting rejected. We can use this heat energy again to make the electrical energy. So that is thermoelectric. Okay, so that is called thermoelectric. So where in photovoltaic you are using heat radiation, okay, UV radiation, you are making electrical energy. Then you are running some appliances, maybe HVAC system, maybe AC you are running. Then AC is giving a very comfortable environment, inside the room, inside the shell. And whatever heat energy you are rejecting, that can be used to generate again electrical energy. So that is thermoelectric. And the main application of this thermoelectrical, not in India, but outside India, they're using in vehicles, in cars. So cars when you are using petrol as a fuel source in the car, so lots of heat energy got deposited. 70-80% of the fuel consumption, what you use in the car, that is 20% only used for vehicle running. And rest of the energy, it got detected as a heat form. So they turned this thermoelectric material, thermoelectric assembly to reuse in the car, at least for running of the fan, or maybe running of the audio and the lights and all. Okay. So this is called thermoelectric. So it has associated with this photovoltaic only. This system can be in loop, a cycle can be generated where you can use the rejected energy form to generate the real energy. Okay. So now the piezoelectric, the third term, that is called elastic strain, is converting into electric current. And this is like a reversible process. So what is reversible process? What is irreversible process? Photovoltaic, you take this process where you are getting radiation changing into electric energy. But this can't be reversed. PV panels may, again, if you are putting electrical energy from down, you can't get the radiation. You can't reverse the process. But in piezoelectric, that is the beauty of piezoelectric material. I'll explain what is piezoelectric, where you actually deform the material. Actually you deform and you generate the strain in the material assembly, and then that energy, then because of the deformation, that transform the strain energy, the energy generated from elasticity, to the electrical energy. And again, when electrical energy given to this material, the deformed material, it will reverse, it will get back its shape again in the original manner. So it is X, you will giving the you are deforming the material to x1, and you are getting electric current, and you are giving back the electric current. The x1 can be generated as original to x. So x, x1, x, and the x to x1, you are getting the electrical output. And if you're giving back the electrical output, you are again getting back to x1 to x. So that is piezoelectric, and this is called electrodestructive, the fifth material. This is the combination of piezoelectric, where you are giving electric energy to deform, or by deformation you are getting the electric energy. So this also combines in one assembly, piezoelectric and electrodestructive. Okay, so we'll see one video is there. What is piezoelectric? How it works in real-time application, not only for building application, but in real-time scenario, how we use. And this one is photoluminescent. Okay, so like TV panels. Okay, and like thermochromic, what we have seen, thermochrome we are using in specs, where this color changes with the external radiation. So in photoluminescent, this visible spectrum changes, and we'll see the example in this also. What is photoluminescent? But first we'll see piezoelectric का concept क्या है in this video.
One of them is a special sort of crystal.
So voice is coming, audio is coming, video is coming.
Yes, sir.
Good. Now
That yields electricity when squeezed. These piezoelectric crystals can be found in lighters for kitchen stoves, in machinery for baby ultrasounds, and in sonars used by ships to measure water depth. But researcher Beatrice Nojeda of Groningen University wants to use them for something different: generating energy. For example, you could use piezo crystals in a dance floor, which will generate electricity while you dance. Not enough to light a whole city, but you could certainly power the dance floor lights. A bit more useful would be using the crystals to generate energy in spots where it's not so easy to use an extension cord. Within a car tire, for example, where a tiny sensor measures the air pressure. Using a piezoelectric crystal, you could use the tire's vibrations to power this sensor. Or maybe you could use piezo crystals to power a pacemaker, making use of the thumping of the heart itself. However, there is one problem. The best available piezo crystals contain lead, which is poisonous and ecologically harmful. So, Beatrice Nojeda wants to find piezo crystals without lead, which are just as good or better than the lead-containing ones. So why does a crystal generate electricity when squeezed? The crystal itself is built out of positive and negative atoms. If you push it hard enough, these will shift with regard to each other, and this shift yields an electrical current. But you can also generate electricity when you don't exactly compress the crystal, but when you squeeze it, as if emptying a toothpaste tube. Beatrice Nojeda discovered that this can give you more electricity, especially when you lay together the tiny crystals in this way. So now she's dreaming of using that idea to develop a better piezo energy source without the lead.
Okay. Okay, so this one was about the piezoelectric. I think everyone got it. Now there is a small...
And welcome to High School. And I'm Paul.
Yeah, so screen is visible, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so there is a kind of small question answer round for this. It's like for 1 minute only. So there are 4 figures. So can anyone tell what are the materials or what are the techniques what we are using, what we have read? It's like we have gone through this magnetorheological, thermochromic, Okay, photovoltaic, thermoelectric, piezoelectric, and photoluminescent. What are these? Can you name it? What is the first one? Can anyone tell? The first one? Okay, I think it's common for like, I think voice is mute. So I'll tell, this is photoluminescent. Okay, so what we have read in this X-ray energy, this is photoluminescent. So in the dark, it glows. And this has like very ultimate application in hospitals, especially in the night. Maybe in this spacecraft assemblies, they have used this. Okay, to glow the walkway or as used as a signage also in artificial application. Okay, this is photochromatic or thermochromatic, what we have read. According to the daylight radiation, it changes the color. Okay, so it can be like translucent in nature, not transparent, and it can go to some shade, like darker shade of the UV spectrum. So reduce the glare effect inside the building. Okay, this is the PV panels. Everyone knows. And same way, the PV panels can be associated with this technique that is called thermoelectric, where the radiation can be used to generate electricity again. And this is the piezoelectric what we have used. This is some kind of concept in urban park, where you will cross this kind of grids and that will generate electricity. Small, small lamps will be there. So again, this is a park concept and with the piezoelectric flooring. So this all has a real-time application in architectural world, starting from office to generating electricity for our home uses, to get the urban design scenarios like outside spaces, inside the spaces, and this also is in staircase and for the signages also. So these are the examples. Okay, this is the common list. You can go through it later. Every material is like donated there, starting from electrochromic, liquid crystal, suspended particles. What is the input? What is the output? It has own library in there, so you can go later through this. Okay, now the nanotechnology. What is nanotechnology? I'll go a little faster because time is very less. Okay, so after seeing the smart materials, we can have this notion that the smart materials actually works in the assembly of nanotechnology. And nanotechnology is all about, physically we can distinguish nanotechnology as the size of the particles or size of the assembly what you are using. Though the definition says it consists of -6 to 10 to -9 nanometer. That is the categorization. That is the definition of nanotechnology in the subatomic molecule manner. Okay. What is the real-time application or architectural application of this nanotechnology in building industry or building sector? First is self-cleaning, that is liquid-based. We'll see what is this self-cleaning property of the nanotechnology, how it works. Second is air purifying, that is air-based, and third is thermal insulation, that is solid-based. So this has three application based on the three stages of the matter, that is liquid, gas, and solid. I have categorized like this. We'll see one by one what is based on liquid, what is based on air or gas, or what is based on solid. The application of this self-cleaning, air purifying, and thermal insulation. Okay, the first one is that is called Lotus effect, self-cleaning. So I don't know how many we have observed this self-cleaning property of Lotus with the water droplets, but how it works, I can show you by a small diagram what I have generated. This is the surface we have in the Lotus. Gray wala. This is the Lotus ka outer surface, the leaf ka outer surface, and this has one hydrophobic wax. And hydrophobic means it's like water repellent kind of thing. Okay, so when the dust particles, these red particles, appeared in the leaf outer surface on the hydrophobic surface, and then when we put H2O, that is water droplets, it revolves in the dust particles and it the dust particles outside the surface. That's how it works. The self-cleaning process of the Lotus works. And this droplets of the water can be categorized in the scale of, that I'll show you, that is called surface attraction. So this is the definition of hydrophobic surface, where the droplets, it is in the form of a proper circular in manner. This is the scale of surface attraction. That is called scale of hydrophobic to hydrophilic. Okay. And both has this self-cleaning property in the material science. Hydrophobic is about where water droplet gains or remains its shapes, almost 80% of its shapes, and it makes obtuse angle with the surface where it drops. Two things are there. In hydrophobic, the water droplets, when you are putting H2O, it makes obtuse angle with the outer surface of the material. And hydrophilic, it makes acute angle with the surface of the material. This is one property. Second property is, we can say, the droplets of the water. Let's assume the droplets of water remains its 70% of the shape, and in hydrophilic, it almost remains only 20 to 30% of the shape. This is the scale how it attracts, how it reacts toward the outer surface of the material. So in lotus property, actually it works in the hydrophobic manner. Okay, so dust particle, when H2O rolls down from the surface of the lotus particle, it always it attracts the dust particle in a hydrophobic manner, the H2O droplets, and then it gets its self-cleaning property through this surface. Okay, second one is self-cleaning but photocatalyst. This is the self-cleaning glass, or the we can use in the glazing system in the building, where after rainy season, or maybe it is called self-cleaning dust surfaces, where you need not to wash with your hand, or you need not to use microfiber clothes to washing it. Just you put waters and it will be cleaned. Especially this has very great application in PV panels. But this self-cleaning catalyst in PV panels, it works in the hydrophilic manner. Whatever we it loses its surface traction because of the water droplets. But the self-cleaning process, the difference is this is based on hydrophilic, where the surface droplets, if you'll see from the outside, this both looks same, but only their inside process is different. Self-cleaning is same for both of them, and this can be replicated in artificial manner in building industry also. Lotus effect can be replicated in building industry, and this is already we are using in building industry in a hydrophilic manner. So hydrophobic we understand, hydrophilic we have understand. The water droplets attract the surface tension of the, or maybe surface dirt of the materials. And what is self-cleaning property? And the real-time application is self-cleaning concrete. They have used in this some kind of building structure. This is based on the hydrophilic process of self-cleaning of the surfaces, where the dirt comes out with the water droplets without using the man-made power or any devices, external devices. It remains cleaner, maybe 10 times or 20 times cleaner than the normal conventional surfaces. Okay. So this was one application, self-cleaning concrete. Second is air purifying. Okay. So again, this nanotechnology works, and how it works, where we have used water droplets for dirt cleaning, for self-cleaning in the first example. In this example, we use air particles for that. So air particles actually decomposes this odor, the smelly surfaces of the building inside it. And this air curtains releases this kind of air particles to the inside air. So this is also have like real application. This was the outside application in the building industry. This was the inside application in the building industry. And third is based on phase changing material, that is based on thermal comfort. So how this one works, the thermal comfort phase changing materials, we'll see. Yeah. So one of the industrial application of this thermal comfort based on thermal comfort is aerogels, that is used in thermal insulation. Okay. And this aerogel, how it works, the function of aerogels, it is like when you give input like thermal energy, like PV panels, the phase changes. Okay. And then because of this thermal energy, there is structural inside the assembly, inside the gel, this tube we can see, they changes. And because of this volumetric expansion, the molecular expansion inside the assembly, they act as a more dense material, and they reduce the gaining of heat from outside to inside. So first it is like a glass. Okay, you are using like a transparent glass, then heat radiation is coming. Because of this heat radiation, the intermolecular structure of the volume is getting changed of this material aerogel, and then because of this transformation of intermolecular structure, they are getting more dense, and hence they are reducing the visible spectrum or radiation spectrum of the solar radiation. Okay, so this is the section we can see, like very conceptual section. This is the glass fiber we have, and then in between the glass fiber we are using this red color silica aerogel, and this is the output. It's like composite in manner, because in the daytime, around in afternoon, you want to reduce the heat from outside to inside, and in night time when solar radiation is not there. Yeah, hello. Hello.
Request the participants to mute their audios and videos, please.
Just for 2 minutes. It's like last slide. We are closing this. Okay. So this glass fiber is there, and we use silica aerogel. And then when the solar radiation, when the temperatures comes up to the optimized temperature ranges for silica aerogel, that will be like outside the comfortable range. The comfortable range in itself is 23 to 25 degrees Celsius. But in the afternoon, when the temperature is more than 25 degrees Celsius, it goes up to 32, 35, 37. This silica aerogel microfibers or molecular structure changes, and then it acts as a more composite materials to reduce the heat gain from the outside, or to reduce the thermal gain from the outside. And for structural strength or for better thermal conductivity, we use carbon fiber with this silica aerogel. So this assembly, silica glass fiber with silica aerogel, it itself is good enough, but for making it more towards like more applicable towards wind load in high-rise building, maybe more applicable towards earthquake load, we use carbon fibers with this glass fiber and silica gel. So there will be 3 parallel sections: glass fiber, silica aerogel, and then carbon fibers. And then combinedly they act as a composite material, or maybe in the scale of transparent to translucent they act, like opaque they act, according to the temperature changes outside the structure. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this was the whole concept of this using thermal insulation inside the building envelope. And actually the science behind this is based on the sensible heat and latent heat exchange. I'm not going very deep inside this sensible and latent heat exchange, because it itself is a part of great domain of thermodynamics and everything. But I'll tell you the very basic. Sensible heat is the heat what you sense. Okay. So if the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius inside your room, you will feel very comfortable. Your productivity will be very good. But when the temperature rises from 25 to 27, maybe above 35 degrees or 34 degrees, okay, you will feel hot. So that is the sense, that is the heat you are sensing. That is called sensible heat. And latent heat, it is the form of heat where the temperature never rises. Only the state of matter changes. It is like the water. When the still water is there in the room temperature, when you are boiling the water, it is changing from solid, it is changing from liquid to gas. One state will come when you are boiling the water starts boiling, the state changes. It is not the temperature is rising. But after the changing the state in a vapor form, the temperature rises again. So that is called latent heat. Latent heat is associated with the transformation of the shape of the material, or maybe transformation from the stage of the material, from liquid to gas, solid to liquid, like this, like melting and boiling point works in the latent heat material. So what this aerogel works, how this aerogel works, when the surface radiation is there, okay, they are absorbing the heat. Maybe they have this threshold point of 25 degrees Celsius. And after when the temperature rises from 25 degrees Celsius, 25 to 30, they absorb that heat. They remains, they absorb their heat. They change their molecular transformation. They change their stages, maybe from solid to liquid, maybe solid to maybe more porous material. And then this heat can be stored and can be used back, or can be absorbed in the materials only. We are seeing one video based on this, small video, 2-3 minutes. The thing will be much clearer with that.
large amounts of electricity.
So voice is audible and video is clear?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay.
Air conditioners consume large amounts of electricity. Air conditioners mean high costs for investment, operation and maintenance, and cause considerable quantities of CO2. Switch off. It's time to switch to Micronal PCM. Pleasant indoor climate and energy efficiency. Now available with microscopic wax spheres integrated into building materials for ceilings and walls. During daytime, indoor heat loads cause room temperatures to rise fast. When a defined room temperature is exceeded, 23 degrees Celsius for example, Micronal PCM absorbs surplus heat, preventing the room temperature from rising further. The secret of Micronal PCM? Tiny acrylic glass spheres filled with paraffin wax. Initially solid, the wax melts at the defined temperature and absorbs considerable quantities of heat during this phase change. A further rise in room temperature is avoided. When the temperature drops, at night or by using air conditioning systems, the wax solidifies and Micronal PCM releases the previously stored heat. This process functions throughout the entire life cycle of a building, silently and without electric power, operating costs, maintenance or repairs. Shading is important, especially in lightweight construction. Daily heat loads cause considerable temperature fluctuations. Micronal PCM controls these heat loads, and as a consequence, it evens out the temperature, ensuring a more constant indoor climate, and opens up new strategies for energy-efficient cooling concepts. Micronal PCM is being integrated into all kinds of regular construction materials in the form of dispersion or powder. Ready-to-use PCM construction products are now available for new construction and refurbishment. For example, as Smartboard, a gypsum wallboard containing PCM for dry construction, or as a plaster for liquid handling, or as aerated concrete with static load-bearing capacity. Construction materials containing Micronal PCM can be used equally well for walls and ceilings. In combination with water-based capillary systems, BASF's PCM building products form highly efficient surface cooling systems. Dry wall construction in Freiburg, passive application of Micronal PCM in a new building. Prefabricated water-based cooling systems with Ilkacell chilled ceiling panels and regenerative cooling source. Redevelopment for lofts and office space in Berlin. PCM plaster system as a chilled ceiling. Building products containing Micronal PCM promote an attractive and pleasant work or residential environment and contribute to higher.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we have got this concept about the phase changing materials, how it works. One is like absorbing the heat and remains the inside environment remains cooler. The second is in the building envelope where we use and it's change its property, physical property, so to get the more composite or more opaque nature of the radiation barrier in the building envelope. Okay. These are the common types available in the market, that is, as an interior plaster and gypsum board, as explained in video also. Okay, and everything is like works with nanotechnology, like 10 to the power -6 to -9 nanometer acceptable range. It's based on the micro encapsulated paraffin capsules. Inside the plaster, they insert this paraffin boxes capsules inside the plaster in the gypsum board, and they apply in a very normal manner. This is how they apply that plaster board in the building industry for the phase changing materials. Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone. I'm sorry I have taken I think more than 5 minutes from the stipulated time. So this is one of the websites you can go through, RKS at APTX, where I'll be also joining with you in future. And if anyone is having any doubt or anything, please ask.
Nice presentation, Saurabh. It's a wonderful presentation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.
Very good presentation. And
Yes,
I think I think all the students of have enjoyed the things, and it's a new thing for them. All the best. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for such an amazing talk. Now, moving on to question and answer session, we have a few questions from the audience. The first one is, how usage of nanotechnology benefit the basic construction materials like cement, concrete, and steel?
Okay, can you repeat it?
Yeah. How usage of nanotechnology benefit the basic construction materials like cement, concrete, and steel?
Yeah, actually, I think it is more about integration in the design process itself. So it has this ability to integrate within the design development stage. And that is the most important tools as an architect we have with this nanotechnology. See, I already shared this experience. Like most of the PV panels calculation, what we are using, it is based on retrofitting basis. When we make a structure, we calculate the load of that structure based on their occupants, and then we put the PV panels according to that. But this has this beauty, this nanotechnology or smart materials, it can be integrated with the initial stage of the design. When you're designing, when the perception on the inception of the design it's coming from. So it can be used with concrete, it can be replaced with concrete, it can be integrated with concrete. So many of the options are there.
Okay. The second question is, how nanotechnology makes it possible to improve scratch resistance while maintaining transparency?
Yeah, so this is I think mostly based on the surface tension. The physics is like that. One side of it, that the surface tension of the materials, what we see, the hydrophobic and hydrophilic process in the materials, how dirt is coming, and how like for how many times or what time it is getting deposited on, that matters. So it depends on that. And for scratches, I will explain this in maybe some later stages, because it has a different domain to reduce to increase the strength against scratches and other materials. So maybe you can use, maybe we can use some kind of parallel assembly like carbon fiber I have explained, for making it more scratch resistance or more giving it more strength inside the assembly, we can use for that.
Okay, so the last question is, what is green nanotechnology?
This seriously, this green term is most confusing and most, I will say, it is only a profit margin term, money making term. This green term, no personal offense to anyone, because I was associated with this green technology. Okay, green term what you use. I have completed my IGBC AP exam. I was member of Grihas AP also, and now I am criticizing everyone for my personal choice of research. Always try to research without green technology. Everything lies in the nature. Okay, every learning process starts with the natural phenomena. So try to first understand the natural phenomena inside or surrounds you. System surrounds you. Starting from insects, the birds, the animals, the solar radiation, the wind movement. That is the main beauty of the understanding this whole ecosystem of the nature. Okay, so first thing first, remove this green name, and then say that what you want to learn. That is the first suggestion I have.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. We
Thank
will
you so
post a recording of this webinar on our college website in a few days.
Okay.
There's always room for a new idea, a new step, a new beginning. So before wrapping up the session, I would like to take the opportunity on behalf of the entire AAD team to heartily thank respected Saurabh, sir, for sharing your valuable time with us and educating us towards a better future. Teamwork is the ability to work together towards common vision. I would like to thank Architect Siddhartha, the webinar coordinator, Architect Kishan, the broadcasting coordinator. Would like to thank our principal Ganesh Babu, sir, without whom this session would not be possible. Thank you, sir, for introducing us to various speakers around the globe and giving us the exposure. A special mention to the Aditya Group of institutions for always being kind and generous in accepting our requests. I would like to also thank our participants, all the students. It's an honor to be the moderator for today's webinar. Such immensely talented people on this platform. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.